for of a sudden he shouted, "Ivy got it! Ivy got it!" "You've got what?" I asked in astonishment. "Ivy got the answer. Now I know what's the trouble with me. It's that everything goes wrong with me, because I myself am wrong." I clapped my hand on his back and said, "Boy, at last you are on your way." "Why, it's as clear as a crystal," he said. "I have been thinking wrong, and as a result I have created wrong outcomes." By this time we were out in the moonlight standing alongside my car, and I said to him, "Harry, you must go one step further, and ask God to make you right inwardly." I quoted this passage from the Bible, quote, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Quote, Joe 8:32, "Get the truth into your mind, and you will be free of your failures." He became an enthusiastic practicing follower of Jesus Christ. Through real faith and a complete change of thoughts and personal habits, wrong thinking and wrong acting were removed from his nature. He straightened out by developing right, or righteousness, pattern instead of an error pattern. When he was made right, then everything began to go right for him. Following are 7 practical steps for changing your mental attitudes from negative to positive, for releasing creative new thoughts, and for shifting from error patterns to truth patterns. Try them, keep on trying them. They will work. 1. For the next 24 hours, deliberately speak hopefully about everything, about your job, about your health, about your future. Go out of your way to talk optimistically about everything. This will be difficult, for possibly it is your habit to talk pessimistically. From this negative habit you must restrain yourself, even if it requires an act of will. 2. After speaking hopefully for 24 hours, continue the practice for 1 week, then you can be permitted to be realistic for a day or 2. You will discover that what you meant by realistic a week ago was actually pessimistic, but what you now mean by realistic is something entirely different. It is the dawning of the positive outlook. When most people say they are being realistic, they delude themselves. They are simply being negative. 3. You must feed your mind even as you feed your body, and to make your mind healthy you must feed it nourishing, wholesome thoughts. Therefore, today start to shift your mind from negative to positive thinking. Start at the beginning of the New Testament, and underscore every sentence about faith. Continue doing this until you have marked every such passage in the 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Particularly note Mr. 11:22, 23, 24. They will serve as samples of the verses you are to underscore, and fix deeply in your consciousness. 4. Then commit the underscored passages to memory. Commit 1 each day until you can recite the entire list from memory. This will take time, but remember you have consumed much more time becoming a negative thinker than this will require. Effort and time will be needed to unlearn your negative pattern. 5. Make a list of your friends, to determine who is the most positive thinker among them, and deliberately cultivate his society. Do not abandon your negative friends, but get closer to those with a positive point of view for a while, until you have absorbed their spirit. Then you can go back among your negative friends, and give them your newly acquired thought pattern without taking on their negativism. 6. Avoid argument, but whenever a negative attitude is expressed, counter with a positive and optimistic opinion. 7. Pray a great deal and always let your prayer take the form of thanksgiving on the assumption that God is giving you great and wonderful things, for if you think He is, He surely is. God will not give you any greater blessing than you can believe in. He wants to give you great things, but even He cannot make you take anything greater than you are equipped by faith to receive. According to your faith, that is, in proportion to, be it unto you. Mountain 929, the secret of a better and more successful life is to cast out those old dead, unhealthy thoughts. Substitute for them new vital, dynamic faith thoughts. You can depend upon it. An inflow of new thoughts will remake you and your life. Relax for easy power. Every night in these United States more than 6 million sleeping tablets are required to put the American people to sleep. This startling statement was made to me several years ago by a drug manufacturer at a convention of that industry, where I was giving a speech. Though his assertion seemed incredible, I have been told by others who are in a position to know that the above estimate is now an understatement. In fact, I heard another good authority assert that the American people are using about 12 million doses of sleeping tablets per day. That is enough to put every 12th American to sleep tonight. Statistics show that the use of sleeping tablets has risen 1,000% in recent years. But a more recent statement is even more startling. According to the vice president of a large drug manufacturing concern, approximately 7 billion one-half-grain tablets are consumed yearly, which works out at about 19 million tablets per night. What a pathetic situation. Sleep is a natural restorative process. One would think that any person after a day's work would be able to sleep peacefully, but apparently Americans have even lost the art of sleeping. In fact, so keyed up are they that I, a minister with ample opportunity to test the matter, must report that the American people are so nervous and high-strung, that now it is almost next to impossible to put them to sleep with a sermon. It has been years since I have seen anyone sleep in church. And that is a sad situation. A Washington official who loves to juggle figures, especially astronomical figures, told me that last year in the United States there was a total of 7.5 billion headaches. This works itself out at approximately 50 headaches per head per annum. Have you had your quota yet this year? Just how this official arrived at these figures he did not say, but shortly after our conversation I noticed a report that in recent year the drug industry sold 11 million pounds of aspirin. Perhaps this era might appropriately be termed the aspirin age, as one author has called it. An authoritative source declares that every other hospital bed in the United States is occupied by a patient who was put there, not because he encountered a germ, or had an accident, or developed an organic malady, but because of his inability to organize and discipline his emotions. In a clinic 500 patients were examined hand-running and 386, or 77%, were found to deal of psychosomatic difficulties, physical illness caused largely by unhealthy mental states. Another clinic made a study of a large number of ulcer cases, and reported that nearly half were made ill, not as the result of physical troubles, but because the patients worried too much or hated too much, had too much guilt, or were tension victims. A doctor from still another clinic made the observation that in his opinion medical men, despite all extraordinary scientific developments, are now able to heal by the means of science alone less than half the maladies brought them. He declares that in many cases patients are sending back into their bodies the diseased thoughts of their minds. Prominent among these diseased thoughts are anxiety and tension. This unhappy situation has become so serious that in our own Marble Collegiate Church, 5th Avenue at 29th Street, New York City, we now have 12 psychiatrists on the staff under the supervision of Dr. Smiley Blanton. Why psychiatrists on the staff of a church? The answer is that psychiatry is a science. Its function is the analysis, diagnosis, and treatment of human nature according to certain well-authenticated laws and procedures. Christianity may also be thought of as a science. It is a philosophy, a system of theology, a system of metaphysics, and a system of worship. It also works itself out in moral and ethical codes. But Christianity also has the characteristics of a science, in that it is based upon a book which contains a system of techniques and formulas designed for the understanding and treatment of human nature. The laws are so precise, and have been so often demonstrated, when proper conditions of understanding, belief, and practice are applied, that religion may be said to form an exact science. When a person comes to our clinic, the first counselor is perhaps a psychiatrist who in a kindly and careful manner studies the problem, and tells the patient why he does what he does. This is a most important fact to learn. Why, for example, have you had an inferiority complex all your life long, or why have you been haunted by fear, or, again, why do you nurse resentment? Why have you always been shy and reticent, or why do you do stupid things or make inept statements? These phenomena of your human nature do not just happen. There is a reason why you do what you do, and it is an important day in your life experience, when at last you discover the reason. Self-knowledge is the beginning of self-correction. Following the self-knowledge process, the psychiatrist hands the patient over to the pastor who tells him how to do what he ought to do. The pastor applies to the case, in scientific and systematic form, the therapies of prayer, faith, and love. The psychiatrist and the minister pool their knowledge, and combine their therapies with the result that many people have found new life and happiness. The minister does not attempt to be a psychiatrist nor the psychiatrist a pastor. Each performs his own function, but always in cooperation. The Christianity utilized in this procedure is the undiluted teachings of Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior of man's life. We believe in the practical, absolute workability of the teachings of Jesus. We believe that we can indeed do all things through Christ. PHP 4:13. The gospel as we work with it proves to be a literal fulfillment of the astonishing promise, I have not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man, the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. 1 Company 2:9. Believe in Christ, believe in his system of thought and practice, believe and you will overcome all fear, hate, inferiority, guilt, and every form and manner of defeat. In other words, no good thing is too good to be true. You have never seen, never heard, never even imagined the things God will give to those who love him. In the work of the clinic, one frequent problem is that of tension. This, to a very large degree, may be called the prevailing malady of the American people, but not only the American people seem to suffer from tension. The Royal Bank of Canada some time ago devoted its monthly letter to this problem under the title, Let Us Slow Down, and says in part, This monthly letter does not set itself up as a counselor of mental and physical health, but it is attempting to break down a problem that bedevils every adult person in Canada and, I might add, in the United States as well. The bank letter goes on to say, "We are victims of a mounting tension, we have difficulty in relaxing. Our high-strung nervous systems are on a perpetual binge. Caught up as we are in the rush all day, every day, and far into the night, we are not living fully. We must remember what Carlyle called the calm supremacy of the spirit over its circumstances." Quote, "When a prominent banking institution calls to the attention of its customers the fact that they are failing to derive from life what they really want from it, because they have become victims of tension,